Hello ladies and gentlemen, we have our next match of the day. We have Yvar, Vlieger versus Justin de Bakker. We've already seen Justin de Bakker a bit earlier in the round 2, I believe. But Yvar has somewhat of a particular team that we do have to talk about because it is something special to behold. It has a Klefki, Tinglu, a Tatsugiri without a Dondozo, a Dunsparce, a Pokemon that we yet to see so far, and of course the Squawkabilly, and then Annihilate. I've had the pleasure to play against Yvar and even look at his matches in Malmo, so I already know what this team does, and it's actually pretty terrifying to have against, because the Dunsparce does have Rock Slide with the Serene Grace, and then also with the White Lance, making sure that it doesn't miss either. Just trying to make sure that your opponent, if it's slower than you, just keeps flinching every time and time again. Klefki with Thunder Wave and the Dunsparce itself with Lair, make sure that you can go for these Rock Slides quite reliably. Then, of course, a new Intimidate Mon with the Squawkabilly, which is an interesting pick because it also gets Final Gambit as well, which is something that is quite interesting to see, especially if you don't know what the HP stat of a Squawkabilly itself is. But as mentioned, we have also Justin, who has the Fluttermane, Azumarill, the Amoonguss, the Iron Hands, Pelipper, and the Annihilate. So also a pretty solid team from that end, as we do have the lead series Klefki, Annihilate, and Amoonguss plus Fluttermane. Now, Annihilate does have the option of to just Terra, just making sure that it will not be hit super effectively anymore by this Fluttermane here. The main issue being really that Amoonguss, because you do not want an Amoonguss to keep being able to put things to sleep right now. Klefki being able to set up screens, Dazzling Gleam, and even Thunder Wave, trying to make sure that nothing really is able to move. So, you know, in hindsight, you might try and find a way around this as well. The Fluttermane itself can do a lot of damage. It is, of course, a Fluttermane, don't get me wrong. It is absolutely a monster of a Pokemon. And as we do have that first Terra coming out, it is that Annihilate. Immediately, turn 1, game 1, let's go. Fire Annihilate, making sure that it is able to resist any sort of fairy moves that the Fluttermane might be throwing out, which is like a few base power stronger as well. Thunder Wave coming out into that Fluttermane, meaning it is now paralyzed, meaning it cannot move sometimes, and its speed is also reduced by 2 stages. As the Annihilate does go for the bulk up, is faster now than the Fluttermane, and the para instantly happening to that Fluttermane as well. As a Spore does come out from the Amoonguss into that Klefki, making sure that that Klefki goes to sleep right ahead. Honestly, not a bad play here from Yvar's side, just taking a bit slower, making sure that you bulk up first so that you can deal quite a bit of damage there. Klefki not being able to set up screens is unfortunate, but you do have things like Tinglu in the back, making sure that the special attack stat from this Fluttermane might be dropped by just a bit even. And Amoonguss itself not really being able to do very much because this Annihilate is that not Defiant, it is Vital Spirit, meaning it cannot be put to sleep, as the Annihilate goes for yet another bulk up while Klefki takes a turn of sleep, meaning right now this Fluttermane is the only thing that is gonna be moving. It is going for that Shadow Ball into the Klefki. Now we already know that Justin has a Scarf Annihilate, and that Scarf Annihilate has the fun fact of having Final Gambit as well. Klefki needs to wake up, possibly going for that, making sure that that Annihilate does get paralyzed here, because you do not want to get Final Gambited. If you do, you will go down, because of course Annihilate having probably the same HP stat. Final Gambit coming out into that Annihilate, into the Protect. Klefki still taking a turn of sleep there, as the Fluttermane coming out with a Shadow Ball, a very strong Shadow Ball into that Klefki, making sure that that now goes down. Now, now Yvar has a choice to switch into a possible redirector, like for example, doesn't have an Amoonguss, my apologies, but does have Tinglu being able to lower any possible stats here, but that Final Gambit is kind of annoying to deal with because you have already protected, so a Pokemon will probably go down with his Annihilate. So Yvar making probably the right choice of switching right now, making sure that his Annihilate, which is probably his win condition right now, to not go down, and make sure that Justin's Annihilate does go down with that choice. If it's down, it does help him tremendously, because the Floodmane is already paralyzed. It has the possibility to bulk up a few times, and if you don't have a lot of good answers against this, for example, we know that the Amogus is in the back, but we actually see a switch from Justin's side going into the Iron Hands. So correctly predicting that that Yvar was gonna switch his own Annihilate out, not wanting to go down to any sort of final gambit here, as the Floodmane does switch out as well to the Amogus, meaning and the Tatsugiri being switched into the Annihilate, meaning only the Tinglu is doing an attack, going for that heavy slam, going for a bit of damage, but not that much, because of course it is an Amogus and it is rather bulky as well. Tatsugiri does have the safety goggles, which does help it quite a bit there in that regard. But now you have to consider what to do, because you can't really damage this Iron Hands all that much, but you need to try and get as much boost onto your Annihilate as soon as possible, because you do not want this Iron Hands setting up or being able to freely deal damage while you are having to focus onto this Amogus. Amogus, of course, being able to redirect his Annihilate any time of day, but yeah, it's one of those things, as we have to switch out from the Tinglu, not going for any sort of ground type moves onto the Iron Hands, as the Rapid Spin from Tatsugiri coming out, doing a bit of damage to the Annihilate, but boosting its Rage Fist in the process and upping its speed from the Tatsugiri. Water Charge doing quite a bit, but it's still neutral, because thanks to that Dragon typing, as a Spore coming out into that Vital Spirit Annihilate right now, making sure that his Annihilate now has a boosted Rage Fist at +2, and the Tatsugiri now has to choose what to do. Now, you can Rage Fist into the Amogus. It's 100 base power right now, but it will not bring down the Amogus, nor will it bring down the Iron Hands right now. So Yvar might be considering to just protect his Tatsugiri for yet another turn and just go for as much damage as possible while he can, as the Rage Fist is coming out into that Iron Hand slot, not doing all that much. As said, Volt Switch coming out into the Amogus, well predicted by Justin, a possible protector, not wanting to hit the Annihilate, boosting its Rage Fist yet again, making sure that that does stay that way. It is also very nice to note, because of the safety goggles onto the Tatsugiri, it is able to just ignore whatever the Amogus goes for. But with the +1 speed, if it's faster than the Annihilate, it is able to possibly do some damage to the Annihilate, making sure that it cannot go for a final gambit onto Yvar's Annihilate. It only has Muddy Water, unfortunately, but that is the best damaging move you have. You have to go for it sometimes. It's one of those cases where you just have to choose, but the Annihilate is still faster at with the choice curve than the Tatsugiri at +1. Now dropping its stats all by one, like its defense and its special defense, meaning this base power Rage Fist can do a whole lot more, making sure that this final gamma will not come out either, into a nice KO onto this Annihilate. A very good choice there, making sure that this Annihilate does go down, as the Spore comes out into the Annihilate and just not, the Vital Spirit just showcasing that it's not working. But now, good information to have. Yvar knows now that the Choice Scarf Annihilate is faster than his Tatsugiri at +1 as well. And now the Tinglu is in, and this seems like a very good setup for the Annihilate to just start bulking up. It doesn't really mind anything. It can go for a Rage Fist. It is now 100 base power, but we have seen it doesn't do all that much. Amogus itself can go for an attack here if it wants to, but I think a Spore will be coming into the Tinglu slot there, as we do have the Terra coming out onto the Iron Hands. It is Terra Grass, making sure that it's no longer weak to any sort of ground type moves from this Tinglu. Terra Grass also making sure that it cannot be redirected for like Amogus and stuff. But a beautiful bulk up here from the Annihilate, just showing off its muscles, really, the muscles from Brussels right now. Drain Punch into the Tinglu, doing a bit under half, might be a roll there in that regard. and also healing a bit in the process as well, as Ruination is coming out, but unfortunately misses the Iron Hands, and the Pollen Puff coming out, making sure that this Iron Hand stays at full health as well. So honestly, not a bad turn still for either of these players. We both know what Yvar's plan is. Win with Annihilate, and Justin has to go a little bit around this, of course. It's gonna be hard, but it is definitely possible to do so. He just has to concentrate and make sure that he tries to make his best plays as possible. There's always these things like crits, for example, or even if you're able to redirect moves to the Amoonguss for a few turns as well, while the Fluttermane can deal a bit of damage. But as long as his Tinglu is on the field, the Fluttermane in the back cannot do all that much. So making sure that the Tinglu goes down first, absolutely a good play to make there. Because you will be getting rid of that ability of Vessel of Rune. Drain Punch coming out, not a KO. Ruination into the Iron Hands, doing half of its HP gone. As the Clear Smoke comes out, is it enough? It is not enough for the Tinglu. Stat changes are gone, and now the Annihilate is at +2 and has 100 base power Rage Fist that can go into the Iron Hands, which I do believe will KO it. Maybe if the Amoonguss redirects it, just to make sure. It's a hard call to make. You have to decide what is going to happen here. If the Iron Hands is just able to go for any sort of recovery while the Amoonguss protected itself, while the Annihilate went for that. But a Rage Power coming out, redirecting any sort of moves to itself. Rage Fist coming out, and the Amoonguss going down as well. Amoonguss down, meaning Drain Punch will go into that Tinglu, and that Tinglu will finally go down as well. And now we have the main issue. This Annihilate is the fastest thing on the field. It is +2. It has a 100 base power Rage Fist. The Fluttermane is slower, and the Iron Hands can't really damage it when it's at +2 defense as well. So this does seem like quite a hard game to come back from, but if there's anything, really, you've always got those chances within Pokemon. What can always happen? For example, Wild Charge can paralyze, can critical hit, can do a lot of these things. So really have to consider what can happen. Fluttermane just being paralyzed as well, making it good for a possible protect the next turn. Trying to make sure that the Annihilate wastes as many turns as possible. I do feel like the Annihilate has to go for the Iron Hands first, because you do know that the Fluttermane can go for a protect. But can it 2-hit KO you? I don't feel like it can. So we do have the Rage Fist coming out into that Fluttermane. No protect this time around, and it is a full-out knockout onto that Fluttermane. Meaning only the Iron Hands is left. Iron Hands just go for the Wild Charge. You can para, you can crit. There's all these options to happen, but they have to happen now, as unfortunately they do not happen, meaning this Rage Fist is now boosted by another 50 damage, meaning 150 base power right now. And yes, Justin decides to forfeit this game and get on to game 2. I think Justin was trying to play it to his outs, but as soon as the Fluttermane was paralyzed, it was kind of hard to come back from that. It is also hard to deal with Klefki being a fairy steel type. It is a very defensive typing as well. So trying to find a way around this isn't as easy. Yvar knowing what to do here, just going with the Annihilate. Maybe if Justin plays with his own Annihilate a little bit better, he might be able to knock it out with a final gambit there in that way. So let's take a look how game 2 will go. Alright, we're back here for game 2. Let's see what changes Justin might have made for this threatening Annihilate, really, as the Iron Hands coming out together with the Fluttermane, as the Squawkabilly actually coming out together with the Klefki. Squawkabilly Intimidate, making sure that the Iron Hands' attack is lowered as well. And this is a Scarf Squawkabilly, meaning it has that speed boost, which might make it faster than the Fluttermane as well, depending on its stats here. It has the ability also Party Shot or even Tailwind for a possible, like, give hits Annihilate a bit more speed. But I feel like a Party Shot or a Final Gambit do seem rather nice to have, because you've already intimidated the Iron Hands. There's nothing really coming in onto that slot, I feel. and the Klefki can just go for some screens as well. Being able to put up screens, making sure that the Fluttermane is doing less damage as well. So let's see how it goes. Okay, we do have that first Terra activation. It is instantly, it is the Terra Ghost this time around onto that Squawkabilly. Not wanting to get faked out there, possibly. I'm not sure if the Iron Hands would have faked out that slot, but we do have a second terrestrialization as well. It is gonna be that Fluttermane this time around, going for that Terra Fairy, wanting to deal as much damage as possible, or even possibly just not wanting to have any ghost type weakness. It's also possible. As the Klefki does go for the light screen, meaning the damage will be reduced from this Fluttermane. We have the parting shot onto the Fluttermane, meaning its special attack will be dropped even more right now, which is all fine and dandy. But that's the thing with Pokemon. If the Fluttermane just decides to crit right here, it can still do quite a bit of damage. But now the Tinglu added on top of that, even lowering it even more, and a good switch in case it is a Moonblast that's coming out into that Tinglu, doing still decent amount of damage. As Drain Punch coming out, a double whammy, just trying to make sure that this Tinglu is now quite chipped. This is a very good play there by Justin, just trying to make sure that well, if the Squawkabilly was gonna switch out, it was gonna switch out to the Annihilate or even possibly the Tinglu. So honestly, might have been a good play there. Then the Thunder Wave coming out into this Fluttermane, just trying to make sure that this Fluttermane is not able to move here. As the Moonblast is coming out, meaning this Tinglu is in grave danger still. And, still barely hang on with 3 HP. But the Iron Hands does seem to be faster and goes for a Dream Punch there, knocking out the Tinglu as well. Excuse me. There's a lot of things to say, so I'm getting tired. Let's take a look here what Yvar wants to do here, because you do have the option of just going Annihilate, but you already use your Terra, so your Terra Fire is kind of gone. You do have the Choice Scarf now onto the Squawkabilly, which is able to go for a Final Gambit, for example, onto the Fluttermane, because the Fluttermane did lose its Ghost typing, meaning you can go for that, but it's still rather hard to decide what to do. You can go for a Brave Bird possibly as well, but that's the thing with Fluttermanes. They're not always built for that pure offense. Sometimes they are built to be just enough defensively to be able to take 2 or 3 hits even, and make sure that they are able to take some things down as well. So while on the other end, Justin might be able to switch out here, sack something else off for this Final Gambit possibly, as he is switching out to the Azumarill. Azumarill, quite a bulky Pokemon, has a lot of HP, and also a nice shiny, as we see. Reflect coming out as well, making sure that no amount of damage that the Iron Hands can do will be that much. Final Gambit coming out, not KOing the Azumarill, meaning Azumarill will still be staying onto this field for another turn. Squawkabilly knocking itself out with the Final Gambit, and Tianbao looking very nicely with still all of his Pokemon as well, as a Volt Switch coming out from the Iron Hands, just making sure that it is able to switch out to something else. If, for example, the Amoonguss, or because screens might be up, but being hit by a super effective Play Rough by this by either of these Pokemon, actually a Fairy type move by either of these Pokemon, will hurt quite a bit to this Annihilate. Even though the screens are up, it will be able to survive, but you will have to decide who to go for first. Fluttermane is slower now thanks to its Thunder Wave, of course, as the Azumarill is still faster. You can actually possibly go for a Dazzle Gleam. Maybe that is enough to KO the Azumarill from this range. But Rage Fist will not be enough to kill a Fluttermane. With 50 base power, most of the time Fluttermanes are built to survive, certainly that. So it is one of those things where you have to decide what to do. You could... Oh, it is an Aqua Jet actually coming out. So if Yvar went for a Rage Fist, he might get the possible knockout onto the Fluttermane. Life Orb damage, also making sure that the Azumarill goes down. Rage Fist coming out, coming in. it is not enough for the kill, as the foul play coming out from the Klefki doing a bit more damage as well to this Floodmane. Not enough for the kill, but a Moonblast coming out from Tianbao into this Annihilate. Is it enough? It is enough for the KO there. Big knockout there. So very well played there by Justin there. Honestly, it was he played that game immaculately. Now the Annihilate's still there, being able to final gambit anything really. So this is a done and set game as well. Well played to both players. Justin just switching out, just being able to switch to a possible fake out pressure, or even being able to go for a Shadow Ball. As close combat coming out from the Annihilate into that Klefki, as the Klefki can go for a possible foul play here right now onto the Iron Hands. Not doing all that much, but the Klefki, yeah, fake out plus close combat plus another close combat will make sure that this Klefki will go down even with the screens up. So well played both players. Let's take a look what will happen in game 3. And it's time for game 3, Yvar versus Justin. Let's take a look what these players will have brought here. They are ready to get this in. One of these spots will secure finals. At least second place will be able to surely secure 16 points as well. As we do have the lead Floodmane and the Among Us, and we have that famous Dunsparce next to the Klefki. Klefki being able to paralyze potentially the Floodmane or the Among Us here, as the Dunsparce is able to go for a possible Rock Slide there. But you have to decide who to go for, because Rock Slide does have an increased chance of to flinch. But the issue being, you have to be sure that it happens. As we have the Floodmane just switching out, possibly into the Iron Hands there, you making sure that it cannot be Thunder Wave. A very good play there, as the Klefki did go for the Thunder Wave there. So hopefully this Dunsparce does go for Rock Slide and manages to flinch the Among Us here. Because if the Among Us is able to spore, it is able to just spore into the Klefki, and that already looks quite detrimental. Klefki is unable to set up screens. The Dunsparce is faster, so you have to hope that your Klefki wakes up as soon as possible, because the Iron Hands is just able to go for a Dream Punch into that slot. You have the possibility to switch out to your Annihilate still to negate that, but you want the Klefki to wake up for any potential Thunder Race for a later game state where you are able to go with your Annihilate as well. Because if that Floodmane is paralyzed, we already know that the Annihilate will be faster, as the Protect is correctly called out by Justin there. Going for a Wild Charge into that Klefki slot. Spore coming into the Dunsparce. Trying to put that to sleep as well. The Dunsparce is now forced to go for a Rock Slide. Klefki does have the possibility to wake up right now. You can also switch out if you think possibly that the Iron Hands might go for another Wild Charge or even a Dream Punch there, as we do have the switch out from the Klefki. It has taken its mandatory turn of sleep. It can wake up the next turn, but Yvar choosing to switch in its Annihilate. Rock Slide coming out, doing a bit of damage to both of these Pokemon, and the Iron Hands does flinch, but unfortunately Among Us does not, meaning this Among Us has put down two Pokemon that do like to spread around that yellow color, that is Paralyzation as well. Annihilate, of course, now being able to set up potentially, but you do not want this Iron Hands really to keep Dream Punching the slots that you have. You can switch out, but this Annihilate is your win condition. It's a good win condition. The issue is if Justin brought his own Annihilate. If he did, that Annihilate is just able to go for any potential final gambit onto Yvar's Annihilate when it goes to the Terra, because you're forced to go to your Terra, of course, if the Floodmane comes in, because it will threaten you with any sort of Fairy type move. It can still go for a Ghost type move, but a Ghost type move will not be enough, as we do see that the Annihilate is here together with the Floodmane. So let's see what this Annihilate itself does. Probably going for a bulk up here, trying to make sure that it is not damaged as much by this previously Iron Hands there, as the Dunsparce does take a mandatory turn of sleep. And now you have to choose. Do you Protect? Do you switch something in? Do you Terra? Do you not Terra? Because the Floodmane, of course, is able to threaten anything really. If the Dunsparce is able to wake up and you can glare, for example, the Fluttermane, that is also a very nice play. Now Yvar has to choose what to do here. You have to wake up one of these Pokemon, and Justin has to think, okay, what might he do? Because if you do Moonblast that Annihilate slot, yeah, that's fine. But if you, for example, if he doesn't Terra and you can't Final Gambit that, that's an issue. So Klefki coming in and is able to resist any sort of Fairy type move that Justin might be going for. As we do have the Terra coming out, it will be that Terra Fairy onto the Fluttermane yet again. It's been very strong the previous games, and it will continue to be strong in this game as well, showcasing why it's so powerful as well. And now a U-turn coming out into that Dunsparce, making sure that this Annihilate is still able to do whatever it wants to the next turn. Now, what will the Fluttermane do? Will it go for an example for a Moonblast onto the Dunsparce? Will it go for a Moonblast onto the Klefki? Or will it possibly, and that is very possibly, just try and predict that the Annihilate did go for the Terra, went for a neutral Shadow Ball there, and will it get paralyzed by the Dunsparce? Moonblast coming out, coming in hot. It is onto the Dunsparce, and the Dunsparce just going down. Perfectly played there by Justin, just making sure that everything went according to plan. And now you do have the Annihilate in the back. You are able to switch in something, but yeah, it's rather hard to decide what to do. You do need to keep 2 Pokemon at least, especially versus that Annihilate with the Final Gambit, so you can at least damage it, so that you are sure that you are able to have more HP than the Annihilate can do to you. But yeah, you have now an Amoonguss that can redirect as well, and the Fluttermane is just able to focus down on the other slots right now. So you're not really able to do very much. It seems like this might be the end already for this for Yvar's team, unfortunately, because the Amoonguss can keep Rage Powdering while the Fluttermane just keeps focusing down onto the right slot there. Being the Klefki, and in the back the Tinglu. So I'm trying to see. Now you do have the option of the Klefki now waking up and go for a Thunder Wave onto the Fluttermane. You still being able to get like amazing paralyzations and stuff, but it's rough. It's just very rough to decide, and Yvar knows this is rough and has to decide what to do himself. As we do have the Terra coming out from Yvar's side, it will be that Terra Fire, making sure that his Annihilate is resistant to any sort of Fairy type moves that this Fluttermane might be throwing out. We already know that it is locked itself into Moonblast. It is that Terra Fairy as well. Rage Power coming out from the Amoonguss, making sure that any sort of moves will go to it instead of everything happening. But unfortunately, the Klefki still taking his second turn of sleep. Moonblast coming out. It is Choice Specs, Terra Fairy, Moonblast. Isn't enough for the Klefki. It is enough for the Klefki as well. Even though it was able to resist that move, that just showcases why Fluttermane is used all of these times, because it's such a powerful Pokemon as well. Bulk Up coming up from the Annihilate, making sure that it is able to set up and possibly do a bit more damage to make sure that the possible Amoonguss or even the Fluttermane goes down. Amoonguss is still able to just keep going for its Rage Powders while this Fluttermane just deals with the Tinglu on the side. So not really a lot of options that Yvar has really. It needs to be able to hit a Fissure here. If it is able to hit a Fissure, it will make sure that the next turn the Tinglu is able to do something, but it needs to do it now. We already see how much Terra Moonblast did with -1 and Light Screen up, so this doing way more damage right now, as the Rage Fist coming out into that Amoonguss, not doing a lot of damage, and the Fissure missing unfortunately as well, meaning this Amoonguss has the free game there to do whatever it wants. The Tinglu will go down by a Moonblast. The Annihilate will just not do that much damage. That's really it. There, he can't do a lot. The Fissure needed to hit there, at least to give the Annihilate a chance, but Justin playing this immaculately well. Moonblast coming out from this Fluttermane into the Tinglu. Tinglu will go down, meaning only this Annihilate is on the field. And while in many instances the Annihilate can take on a 1v4, this seems rather hard with the Annihilate in the back with that final Gambit as well. Rage Fist coming to the Amoonguss again, eating at Citrus Berry and just being able to shrug it really off. So quite hard to deal with. It does seem like this is the end. Now you are able to switch out to your Annihilate, and you're still able to just Rage Powder as well with the Amoonguss, as the Annihilate will be able to freely go for a final Gambit. So final Gambit will take down the Annihilate because they like the final Gambit Annihilate most of the time they have exactly like full HP investment as well, so it will go down. So let's see if it is actually enough, because this will be the first time that we'll actually be seeing it happen. It was so well played by Justin, trying to keep his Annihilate in the back at all times, making sure that it is able to go for that final Gambit as well. If we do finally see a final Gambit and it is enough for that Annihilate to take it down, and that means Justin is in your finals. That means it's Elias versus Justin in finals. Well played, both players, absolutely amazing. You did amazingly, and I'm very happy to see that you both have given us such an amazing battle. We'll see you guys in the finals.